Hello and welcome to today's program. My name is Ethan Chazen and I am the president and the founder of the Chazen Group. We are an executive coaching and organizational development firm based in New York. And I want to welcome you to today's webinar on how to write a powerfully engaging resume that will get you job interviews. So let's dive right in and let's start out with a certain caveat or a certain disclaimer. We all understand and appreciate that nearly everyone has some experience with resumes, which means anybody and everybody you ask for advice, counsel, or to be a sounding board or to eyeball your resume is an expert. But that just ain't so. So while it makes perfect sense from a strategy perspective to ask a select few people that you trust for their advice and counsel to be another set of eyes to look at your resume, understand that people, many of them your friends and family and peers, many of these people have misconceptions about what a resume is, what it should be, what it isn't, and what it shouldn't be. So having said that, let's start out with what it should be in terms of a short list of best practices. Let me say this. What is a resume? It's not a laundry list or a regurgitation of your chronology of your career in bullet points of boring copy that reflect your academic experiences, your work experience, maybe outside interests. No, it's a story. It's a story that sells you as a brand. Your brand is a promise through your resume that every encounter an organization and individuals have with you is unique and valuable, memorable. Having said that, my guess is your resume initially is going to be looked at by somebody who's a stranger to you. They don't know your track record. They don't know what makes you awesome. So it's going to need to sell you in your absence. Now, good luck making that one page. And that gets to my first bullet point. People will tell you, well, if you're just starting out in your career and you have X number of years of experience, or you're still a college student, one page. And then as you progress in your career, it can get lengthier as needed. That is bulk. I only know of one organization that I have prepared candidates to write resumes to submit for opportunities, and that's the United States Government Department of Education, where they say, in effect, give us a one-pager. Absent of that, listen to this. A one-page resume that's horribly written will not get looked at. A powerfully compelling, engaging resume that's 2, 3, 3, maybe even 4 pages will be read. Because remember, at the heart of the matter, a resume is first and foremost a sales document. Now, having said that, your resume likely will be uploaded to a resume database, or what we call an ATS, an applicant tracking system. And that database that may have tens or hundreds of thousands of resumes will be able to search your resume because of resume scanning software. Therefore, your resume has to be seeded with the requisite type of keyword, one-word keywords and keyword phrases of 2 or 3 words that are directly relevant to the industry or industries you are pursuing and the type of roles, opportunities you are seeking. Why? Because let's say an organization is scanning resumes in an applicant tracking system for an ideal short list of candidates. They may say, here's our job description. Resume scanning software, you look at the job description and you retrieve those resumes that are a top X% match in terms of keyword overlap. So they may search for a 98 or 99% match rate. Therefore, in that mindset, it behooves you to do a lot of advanced recon and research, find job postings in many organizations you're interested in, doing the kind of work you're interested in, and look at the words that come up that are ubiquitous, that are universally seeded into those job descriptions for those positions you're interested in, and figure out if those are suitable matches for what you've done and what you're looking for. You need to find a strategic way to embed those keywords into your resume. Avoid jargon. Let's just start out with an implicit assumption, might we, that that first person who's looking at your resume is what's called a lay person. They may not be as knowledgeable about your background, the requirements of the position, the trends and developments in the industry, the technology considerations. Don't use jargon, because that layperson, which I call a gatekeeper, may only be an HR person or a recruiter whose job primarily is to open the door or the gate and let a few candidates through to be interviewed by the line manager or the executive or the team that knows more about the work. So avoid jargon. And now here's where I get a little bit of pushback from my clients. Have several versions of your resume, 2, 3, maybe 4. Why do I get pushback? Because my client will say, well, hold on a second. I thought you customized with the cover letter. And I thought the resume is standard and consistent. Well, let's talk this through for a moment, shall we? There may be a lack of opportunity to submit a cover letter. Also, your cover letter doesn't talk as much about you as your cover letter in the second, maybe third paragraph sells your background, experience, skills that you've done before, already acquired, as they map to the requirements of the position. So the cover letter is not necessarily an overall sales document selling everything about you that comes from your resume. Therefore, you want to think about customizing your resume so it resonates to whoever's looking at your resume for maybe 2 or 3 different kinds of position or a kind of opportunity that you are looking for in this current job search or transition. So that's why I say have multiple versions of your resume. So now, let's get to brass tacks. The mechanics of this. No address at the top. You can see I've highlighted my name just because I want you to see that it pops off the page. It's like a headline on a print ad. The core 3 pieces of information that need to be reflected: your cell phone, your email address, and yes, your LinkedIn profile. And if you don't have a LinkedIn profile or it's not up to date, well, if you're rewriting your resume, most of the information on your resume can be literally copy pasted directly to your LinkedIn profile. So this is at the very start what we want to draw attention to. Now, you may have noticed I had a value proposition in this example. It used to be back in the day, and I don't want to date anybody who's on this webinar, but back in the day, depending on how far back your work experience goes, you may have thought, oh no, I need to put an objective at the top of my resume. Hell no. An objective says this is what I'm looking for. Organizations don't care what you're looking for. They care about the value you can bring into their organization. So over time, that objective evolved into a summary of qualifications. Let me just dump a checklist of all the things I've done so that you can go, wow, and figure out yourself what's relevant. No, you're going to determine exactly what's relevant for that organization or those several organizations you want to pursue by doing your upfront research. No, instead of an objective or summary of qualifications is a value proposition. And that will differentiate you like Seth Godin's purple cow in a pasture of black and white cows. You'll pop out as the purple cow by having a value proposition, which is this: a 2 to 3 sentence, high level, summarized explanation of the essence of you. It's almost as if you watched Simon Sinek's Start With Why TED Talk, where you talk about nobody cares about what you do or how you do it as much as why you do what you do. It's an encapsulated summary statement of the essence of your passion and interests. Having said that, in addition to being your why, your value proposition is a promise that every interaction that somebody has with your value proposition or your personal reputational brand is 3 things: that you are unique, invaluable, memorable. This value proposition in the first 3 to 5 seconds as they're looking at your resume should say, oh, wow, I understand what this Ethan is all about. Let me go a little bit further to explore. So if they read nothing else but the value proposition at the top of your resume, they get a core essence of the question you'll always be asked during a job interview or a statement. So tell me about yourself. Here it is. Here it is. And if you want, let me know. I have you want my ebook on how to write a compelling personal brand statement for your value proposition. So here it is, front and center. You'll notice underneath those 2 to 3 sentences, I've got the core competencies that indicate my core competencies. Why do we do that? Things are going to start to sound eerily reminiscent as we go through our time together today. You're seeding your resume with the core competencies. You're embedding those 1 or 2 keywords that you've literally taken verbatim from your LinkedIn profile under the skills section. So again, I'm all about you do a major activity in your job search once and you can repurpose it multiple ways. Your resume rewrite is a great way to prepare to upgrade your LinkedIn profile. So having said that, your core competencies are critical for those applicant tracking systems, those resume scanning software. Remember, your resume is a needle in a haystack of needles. Core competencies is almost akin to a magnet that draws out your resume from all the other resume needles. Let's get to professional experience. And no, it's not work experience. And this is not just a wordsmithing or semantics. There's a huge impact differential between the word work experience and professional experience. Work is a bucket which can encompass anything. And it's not a value judgment if you've done menial labor or not really contributing valuable impact professionally. So labor is labor, but work experience can imply busy, subpar, low level. Professional has the connotation of you are now in your career. So professional experience, every job you've ever listed, you've probably done yourself a horrific injustice in your current resume. And let me walk you through what I mean by that. If you're like most other people I've encountered, and I've been doing this coaching for 12 years and I worked in the private sector for about 25, and I've seen hundreds of thousands of resumes. Many of them fall into a proverbial trap. Under each job on your resume, in your professional experience, under each job, you have bullet points. And what are those bullet points? You've listed a laundry list of tasks. I did this, I did this, I did this. Okay, there. You, hiring manager at ABC company, you read through my resume, through my experience, and you pull out what you think are relevant work tasks I've done. That's not how you leverage a resume as a way to promote your awesomeness. So instead, think about a fundamental reset or a revisit to your resume. Go grab your resume right now, pause this webinar, and then I'll walk you through how you rethink those bullet points from task to mini story, task to tremendous success. So for every bullet point, think about this. Well, hold on a second. What am I trying to say here? What's the challenge that I encountered? What led me to take this action? And now you say, what was that action or actions that I took? And as a direct result of my engagement by doing that activity or that pursuing that action, the result that I achieved, or I as part of a team achieved, was challenge, action, result. Challenge, action, result. So you're not going to be able to do this effectively for all bullet points. That's okay. But for most of them, you should be able to revisit and recraft those bullet points from task to action, result. Oh, wait, what do you mean action, result? What happened to the challenge? You can erase, delete the challenge. That just helped you set up how to write the action and the result. So think about every job you've ever had under your professional experience is now a list of, instead of tasks. Oh no, that was so before Ethan. But now you've rewritten them to say action, result, action, result, action, result. Oh my God. Now job number 2, action, result, action. What you're doing is you are cultivating on behalf of the recipient of your resume, the reader, through storytelling, a powerful list of throughout your career, actions you've taken and results you've achieved. So now I, as a hiring manager or somebody looking at your resume, understand if I reach out to you because of your resume, which I'm interested in exploring further with you, and I call you and we have a conversation, I'm going to ask for questions for you to give me details on questions around these actions you performed and these results you achieved. You, by doing action result throughout your professional experience, are assuring that potential employer that if they bring you in as the ideal candidate to solve their problems, you'll likely be able to do that because guess what? You've already indicated over here your prior work experience throughout your professional career that you've already faced similar challenges, took similar actions, and already achieved a litany, a massive amount of results leading up to this point in your career. And by the way, in interviewing, that's called behavioral interviewing, where they're going to ask you for proof that you can do the work required based on citing examples of prior work performed. That's comparable. That's what this is. So exactly every bullet point rethink from a challenge, action, result. I mentioned before the value proposition as kind of as you think about your resume in terms of how broad to how specific the information dissemination is. The value proposition is a pretty broad 3 to 5 second overview statement of the essence of you. And then it gets a little bit more granular and detail oriented. Same goes with each job. I'm going to show you in a second how you could create that same kind of mini flipped pyramid, broad to narrow, where we get down to the car bullets. But right now I want to emphasize a point. Your resume is a sales document and it's telling a story. And the story of you is a collection of successes you've achieved wherever you are at this juncture in your career. Having said that, I want to see 3 to 4 success stories. I want to see examples that you might talk about on the interview, things that you've accomplished either individually or better yet collectively as part of a collaborative team, especially if it's lately that you've done it virtually, because most organizations need employees who are successful or working together on teams virtually. I want to see you highlight 3 or 4 examples of something you're most proud of. Make it a bigger point size. So if your resume is 11 point, make it 14 or 13 point. If your resume is Times New Roman font, make this an Impact or Broadway. Use a different color. Go crazy. I want your success stories to visually pop off the screen or off the paper. So now here's what I was talking about in terms of the inverse pyramid, in terms of more general to more detailed information for every job listed in your professional experience. Most people put the name of the organization and then the job title. I don't care where you did it. I want to see what you did. And I want to make sure it's compelling because it's telling a story of you as a set of results you'll achieve. So in that light, lead with your job title in all capital letters bold. You can see that your dates of employment flush right are just month, year in numbers, not words. Again, effective utilization of white space. Imagine the Apple website in terms of design aesthetic. Less is more. And then underneath the job title and then your organization, the name of the employer, city, state, is that thing I was alluding to, akin to a value proposition for your overall career. Each job should have a 1-sentence high-level summary of what your major responsibilities were in that role. So you can see research archaeologist in Las Vegas, assistant federal archaeologist in management of over 3, lead-in sentence overview of what you accomplished in that role. And then the bullet points are challenge I faced, actions I took, results achieved. That's the structure. Now, how do you know whether to lead with academic experience or professional experience? If you have most recently been a graduate of an undergraduate program, or maybe a master's program, but you don't have a whole lot of work experience, then academic experience comes first. But conversely, if you've been out of school for a while, and you've got a fair amount of work experience, maybe, I don't know, 3 to 5 years at a minimum or more, your academic experience is subordinate. It appears underneath your professional experience. But let's talk about your academics. Lead in with the most advanced, highest level of academic achievement accomplished. Don't put dates. Dates serve to date you. So we know whenever you graduated, most likely you were 20, 21 years old, if you matriculated from a North American academic institution. Unless you're in a master's program and you're anticipating graduation in February or maybe spring, then you say master's degree in blank expected February or May 2021, 2022, you get it. Think about the coursework that you've taken, statistics, economics, sociology, market research, any coursework that's relevant to your professional pursuits. List those courses and maybe 2, 3, 4 words of explanation around what you did. So if you're going to be a social media intern, or you're going to be a branding, or excuse me, a junior copywriter, for example. You want ad copywriting as a class. You might have a branding class. You might have taken social media, interactive or digital media, marketing management, any and all courses that are directly relevant, get them on there. Get them on there. So one of the things that academics is ideal for is to the extent that you have practical experience conducting research, either individual research you've done on your own independently, or research that you conducted in a team setting. Research is a really strong selling point. And whenever possible throughout your career, and this includes your academic experience, successful work in teams is to be mentioned. Any examples you can give of collaborative work, let's say on a group project, is critically important. It's indicative of a skill that's in demand. Also, talking about what's in demand. Most organizations that you may want to gain employment in want to see you, whether you're introverted or extroverted, from a behavioral or style at work perspective, doesn't matter, regardless of your personality on a spectrum. They want to see you being engaged. And typically engagement is reflected by participation. And participation is through your clubs, activity, if you held a leadership role on a club, any school-based organizations, any school engagement that shows you get active. So now, a lot of pushback I get from my less tenured, earlier on in their career candidates who are either in university or just recently transitioned out, graduated, is they'll say, my GPA is, and fill in the blank, and then therefore they talk about that as being an incredibly powerful selling point. It's a nice to have, actually. And I say that because over the last 2 decades of inherent American academic institution grade inflation, nearly all people have nearly a 4.0 or even higher. So GPAs are indicative of somebody who's committed to strong work ethic, but they also want to see these potential employers how you're learning, however you define that, you're learning, how you optimize that to make you eminently marketable to transition from your academic experience into a role in an organization. So you want to highlight the learning. That's what you want to reiterate. You want to prove that you have a natural curiosity, you're a problem solver, you can think critically, all those soft skills. So having said all this, I want to talk a little bit about the other stuff. So you've got your professional, not work, professional experience. You've got your academic experience. Now what? This is one way to structurally create a framework, a visual, for how you're going to present supplemental information that also is invaluable for promoting the awesomeness of you. So you think about these other things, and it's almost a table kind of approach. And if you want some help with this, again, at the end, I'll share my contact details and we can have a one-on-one consultation. But I want you to think about all the other stuff that you may be somehow forgetting or glossing over because you're so focused on academia and work. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that comes into play. What are some of those other things? Did you study abroad? Do you come from a diverse ethnic background? Do you have language proficiency? Do you have, again, certifications, accreditations, affiliations, all those other things that are indicative of you as a complete package that makes you eminently marketable because your reputational brand, the collection of things that make you you, are unique. Nobody else has them. Let's promote them. So having said all this, accreditation certifications are highly effective for a number of reasons. Any type of professional accreditation or certification is issued by a governing body that oversees an industry. And so it's a way for you to show a portfolio of successes through building subject matter expertise in your field that you needed to exhibit in order to gain the certification. It's also something equally powerful. It's an indication of your commitment as a lifelong learner or the pursuit of knowledge to your respective field your vocation, your profession. So that's another reason why an accreditation or certification is a powerful tool. It also gets back to Seth Godin's purple cow. It differentiates you. Your unique value proposition is you are a collection of solutions to problems that organization may have. Those accreditations or certifications may give you an additional level of subject matter expertise that makes you eminently more marketable than your counterparts, your fellow candidates, applying for a position in competition to you. Same goes with community engagement. Let me just say this. Organizations understand right now that tens of thousands of American matures and boomers are leaving the market every day. They also know that millennials born between 1980 and 1996 and Gen Zs born between 1996 and 2010, they know millennials, Gen Zs want a different contractual relationship with their employer. For millennials, younger millennials most notably, and Gen Zs, they want to see that their values, beliefs, are shared by their employer through its activities in the communities it serves. So community engagement for you as the applicant is one way for you to match your values and beliefs to an ideal organization. So let's say you have a global bank. I don't know, Deutsche Bank, HSBC, Wells Fargo, B of A. They have a certain kind of culture, right? It feels a little bit different than Chobani or Kind or Under Armour or Tom's Shoes or PETA or Doctors Without Borders. You get it. So community engagement shows your desire, your passion for being a servant master. So the Adam Grant TED Talk of are you a giver or a taker? Well, you're a giver. It answers that question. It's a strong indication your activity in your communities, your volunteer work, coaching, mentoring, Big Brother, whatever you've done. It's an indication of your pathological need to be a servant master, to engage, to be part of something. Now that organization sees that as a sign, a really positive sign, that if they bring you into the organization, most likely because you've exhibited this kind of behavior in the past, that if they hire you, when they hire you, you're just as equally going to continue to be engaged because it's in your DNA. Your resume talks it through, but it's indicative of most organizations over the last year of COVID-19, and actually over the last few decades, have been restructuring and downsizing through furloughs and massive layoffs. What does that mean? The employees who are left in that organization are tasked with providing more. And so one of those things is coaching and mentoring, or being active on groups of employee committees called employee resource groups committees. So those ERPs, those employee resource planning committees, all of those groups are indicative of employees who have demonstrated already they're committed to helping others. Affiliations, memberships, and professional associations shows that you're serious. It shows that you're passionate and committed to connecting with other people, especially those who share your interest in your professional pedigree. As we wrap up the webinar today, I want to talk to you about aesthetic and design. Unless you are a graphic designer, this is what falls under the, I guess, under the category of nice to have. In fact, this is often detrimental to your success as a job seeker. So these incredibly well-designed resumes, you may have taken a course on resume or this design, and you've incorporated these stylistic design elements into your resume. Here's the issue. Looks great, right? But the design aesthetic relies on software, the design, programming, coding, and that may be a barrier when you upload your resume into an applicant tracking system, a resume database that's being searched by that resume searching software. Most of that software sees these incredibly sharp, well-designed resumes as problematic, because they're not the resume searching software intuitively designed to understand stylistic design elements versus content. So it'll either throw your resume out, or it won't be able to, the resume scanning software in that applicant tracking system, see it and capture the information, which is why I say I want you to have 2, maybe 3 versions of your resume uploaded with the same content. One is TXT, text, one is Word, and one is PDF. But the reason is you want a kind of design template, Word, text, PDF, That's what's called CSV, comma separated value. If you think about an Excel spreadsheet, all of those rows and all of those columns have cells, and those cells are discrete pieces of information called words, first name, last name, email, LinkedIn profile. So those are much more easily searchable by the software. I know I've said a lot about this, but as we wrap up and get towards the end of today, I want to revisit something I alluded to earlier, which is a length. A resume that's very short and it's written poorly, it will get tossed into the lateral filing cabinet called your trash bin. A resume that's powerfully written with a lot of these best practices we've talked through today will be read. It's got to be engaging. It has to be engaging from the perspective of the audience, the recipient who's facing a bunch of challenges, meaning they have to hire an individual who they're hoping, through all the candidates that they get, they hire the right candidate to come in and achieve success in the roles and responsibilities required in that position. And guess what? They've read your resume, and because it's, regardless of length, written to appeal to them, you are one of the individuals on a very short list whose unique value proposition has made you a proverbial purple cow, and they choose you, at least to have the conversation, which is called an interview. This is a love marriage. Think about it that way. It's mutually beneficial, which means you have to also get out of the relationship when you're hired by this organization what you need from them. But from their perspective, it's the proverbial, and advertising people know this phrase, with them, what's in it for me. They're looking for a candidate whose collective set of strengths that you've promoted, this new way that we've been talking today about restructuring your resume, they're looking for somebody with your strengths to come in and solve their needs, your set of solutions to the problems that are keeping them up at night, because if only they could find the ideal candidate to come in and achieve immediate pronounced success in this role. Oh, wait, I have this resume of this person who looks like they just might, it's a connection. And that's what your resume is about. So I'd like to say thank you for taking time out of your crazy hectic day to listen in on how to write an effective sales-oriented resume that promotes you. And as my additional thank you, I'd like to offer you, or like to direct you to my YouTube channel, where there's a host of other YouTubes on how to develop a LinkedIn profile, how to write your cover letter. There's a whole bunch of job search, career, and professional development videos. Check those out. Also, as my thank you for taking time today, reach out to me. Let me know if you'd like to have a complimentary consult. You can either email me or send me a text, call me on my cell phone, and also be sure to check out some of the resources that I've made available on my website, thechasengroup.com. So thank you so much for taking your time to spend with me today, and I wish you much success in your career and your professional pursuits. Thank you.